Good evening. My name is Nishay Pattison. I'm the Director of Charter Services. And tonight I'm just giving a quick overview of what the next steps are in the charter renewal process. We start with the charter petition review timelines. So essentially what happens is the charter school submits the petition, and this can be done through a formal submission to the board, or it can be turned into the district office. What is different about the renewal is that because we have a relationship with the charters, we tend to have a little bit more communications with the understanding that we are in a 90-day timeline. And that 90-day timeline takes into consideration how often the board meets during holidays. For example, in December, the board meets once. In November, the board meets once. And so we're taking into consideration that 90-day timeline. And so in the submission process, we meet to determine what dates particular charters will actually submit. Next, the charter goes before the board to present an overview of their board's operations in the form of a public hearing, with equal time for board members to make comment and to ask questions of petitioners. This needs to be done within 60 days of receipt of the renewal petition. This can happen sooner than the 60 days, but the issue is that it all has to fall into a 90-day timeline. So the purpose for most charter schools wanting to go earlier in the year is because it gives them the opportunity, if they are denied, to be able to appeal to the County Board of Education, and also to be able to appeal to the State Board of Education should they be denied instead of renewed. It allows for charters during this presentation to also provide more insight and clarity into their petition, because of course the petition is just a written document, but the public hearing allows them to give more meat and information to that written petition. Next is the charter department posts findings and makes a recommendation to the board in either an approval or denial of the renewal of the charter school. This has to be done 15 days prior to the board vote, which is a newer requirement. And so in doing this, also remembering that this all is still falling into the 90-day timeline. So within that time, a posting of the charter department's recommendations to the board has to be made 15 days before that vote. What this allows also is for the petitioners to be able to make their rebuttal if it is a denial, and to be able to provide with any additional materials or information that may possibly persuade the board or the department to approve. Next is that the equivalent time and procedures for petitioners to present evidence and testimony in response to district staff recommendations. And these might be, once again, the extenuating circumstances as to why maybe certain recommendations for denial were made. From there, the board votes to approve or deny the charter school. So essentially here, the board's role is to consider the level of support for the petition. It's also to review and consider the staff recommendations and to approve or deny. And so STARD is that the district has 90 days from the date of a complete charter petition submission up to the board vote to act upon a decision to approve or deny a charter school. So when I say complete, meaning that there is nothing that is missing that is important to the review of that petition. So once we receive a complete petition to the time that the board votes, we have 90 days. If we mutually agree, the petitioners and the charter department, that there should be a 30-day extension of a timeline to approve or deny the charter, it can be granted. And so typically this might be that perhaps there was some type of letter or documentation that the charter needed, and without that we can't approve it. So it may be that we say, okay, let's take the additional 30 days because maybe that letter's coming in 2 weeks. And so that might be something that is a reason why we would give a 30-day extension. Okay. The petition review process. So once we receive the petition starts being evaluated. It has to align with the education code, state regulations, and other pertinent laws required for reviewing charter school petitions. So we don't just look at the charter petition and say, hey, this looks good. We actually have guidelines that we have to follow, a matrix that we follow that gives us guidance to what we're looking for in that petition. There are 15 elements that are specified in Education Code Section 47605B, and they are reviewed to ensure that they have been satisfactorily addressed. So essentially, every single charter petition that comes to us has 15 elements that have to be addressed in that petition. That addressing of those 15 elements, we dive deeper. So in that petition, A might ask about a specific element. It's listed in the petition. If petition at that time, they may have questions on that element. The state guidelines state that where the criteria calls for judgments to be made, the judgments will be made in such a manner as to be reasonable, rational, and fair to the petitioners and other parties potentially affected by the charter of the school. So essentially, the decisions that we make are not with prejudice. They are based on guidelines. There may be some gray areas in certain parts of the petition, but that's where the questions come in. That's where the oversight comes in of having visited and spoken and provided oversight for the charters. Where there needs to be more substantive information or where the board has requested additional clarity, the charter school is expected to provide responses that answer such questions. So the questions may come from the petition review, it may come from the board, it may come from what was presented at the public hearing, it may be just an interest of clarity. But at no time does that information come from me or the petitioner and go directly to the board. At no time. The information is given to me. I give that information to the superintendent. The superintendent gives that information to the board. Yeah. Here are the areas of review. These are the 15 elements that are in every charter petition, whether it's a new petition or a renewal. And I'll just give a couple of examples of some of those elements. So for example, it may in element E is the employee qualifications. In there, it may list job descriptions, it may list qualifications for those jobs, and it's very specific as to what that job and what that person performs in that job. It could be a review of element H, which is admissions and policies and procedures that may address if the charter school is at capacity for enrollment, how their lottery system may choose students. It may be also K is like the staff retirement system. That lets us know, do they have STIRS? Do they have PERS? Do they have a 401k? And how they give that information to employees and who qualifies. So the charter petition review team. There's the director of charter services, myself. I do a complete review of the charter petition. It's looking at the entire petition. It's coordinating all the people who are looking at that charter petition and being able to make a final recommendation based on all of the components of the charter review team. We have an independent charter services consultant, and that person provides a complete independent review of the charter petition. We do not discuss what that person finds in that charter petition until the end. That way, we both have an unadulterated view of that petition, and any questions that come up, then we will discuss those questions and be able to address those questions with the charter to get additional answers. For example, many states, to include California, may have outside people who will be independent reviewers. I personally do independent reviews for North Carolina, and I didn't do it this year because I'm very busy, but it's a way for a petition to be reviewed by many eyes. The legal team that we have evaluates state, federal, county, and district interests as it pertains to how the charter school will and has operated as an independent charter under AADUSD's authorization, and also completing the resolution that details the reasons why we've approved or denied the petition. We have an independent financial consultant. That person reviews the financial elements of the petition with which the charter will and has operated with, and establishes whether the fiscal viability and ongoing solvency of the charter school. It's different from when we have a new petition, because a new petition, that fiscal information is essentially assumptions and predictions of what that school may do. But with the renewal process, we look at what the petitioners have done in the past, how they're operating currently. And in the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, he or she also provides the past and present fiscal information that's pertinent to the operations of the charter, and will provide some of that information to the independent financial consultant. All of these people together will produce notes and information that we make our findings with, and that we make that recommendation for approval or denial. So in that, it's 90 days, plain and simple. There's the submission, public hearing, publish the findings, making recommendation to approve or deny, and then it is the public hearing that goes into board action to approve or deny.